going on? It's CVV, Chris Van Vliet, and you are checking out the 3 Count Podcast.
Hit him with a 3 count. Pin him to the ground and the crowd go wild, man down, know what y'all like. Hit him with a 3 count. On the top rope.
Well, now, welcome everybody, because we have to do these debate shows and stuff like that. We want to come and bring you something new every single time, but today is just a solo day. So I'll be reading all the comments and getting through with you guys. But first things first, we got to get into the announcements, right? So if you guys haven't checked it out yet, you should be going over, checking out all of our social media, right? You guys can see it right there on the bottom. It's just easy. It's 3 Count Pod or 3 Count _ pod, or you can just subscribe to our YouTube channel, which you should be watching it right now anyway. And, following us and doing all the fun stuff, because that's what we do. So definitely go check us out. Go peep everything that we've got going on, and we've got lots of stuff for you guys. If you guys haven't gone on to our merch tree yet, you should go buy our merch, right? So I guess right now we kind of have to fix our camera angle, but anyway, you guys know we have our t-shirts out on prowrestlingtees.com / the 3 Count Podcast. Go pick up our t-shirts. Go ahead and jump on to whatamaneuver.net. Pick up your shirts from Pure Ignorance, as well as myself, the Red Dog. And yeah, we can do all sorts of good stuff, because I am your Air Force veteran intel specialist, the one you call on when you need to get the job done, and your friendly neighborhood Red Dog. And I'm running solo today, kind of solo-ish, just kind of waiting to see. One of our guests is going to be coming on. You guys would know him. You guys have seen him on all of our podcasts, right? He's popped on Now Entering the Ring. You guys have seen him on Now Entering the Ring 201. It is Mike Caldwell. He is actually joining up right now, so we're going to see what's up with him. And welcome to the show. What's up, Mike?
How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Oh, other than dealing with internet connection, I'm doing pretty good.
All right. So, I was just telling everybody that they should be checking out Now Entering the Ring, because we do have some new interviews coming up, and we want you guys to go check those out. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, this week you're going to get Getty Calhoun, and you're also going to get Brock Calix. So check out Tuesdays and Thursdays for Now Entering the Ring. It's going to be awesome, and we always have new episodes for you guys, and I have a whole bunch in the can just to let you guys know that I still have to release. So trust me, you guys will be seeing a lot of interviews coming out in the next few weeks, so definitely pay attention to what's got going on. So, Mike, what you got coming up? Because I know you have some shows and stuff getting ready to run.
I've got one where I'm performing. It's the 23rd of September.
Right
we just got done with one last week. Just got done with our show last weekend for BCW. And now we got the next one for that is October 8th.
Nice. So was that the BCW that's in North Texas or in Oklahoma?
This is the one on October 8th is going to be the one in Oklahoma.
Okay, cool. So if you guys don't know, BCW has kind of got like this triangle thing, and they run in 3 different spots. So it's pretty cool to watch them grow and expand and do all their cool stuff. So you guys should definitely pay attention to what's going on in the North Texas, Oklahoma area. Also, like we said, so we have the show. So we're going to get into our debate topics today. We have 2 of them. We're also going to bring you guys, of course, as always, you're going to get this or that. And then you're also going to get our heat check and our match of the week. So those are the matches that were happening this last week. But let's just jump into our first debate topic, and it's going to be a doozy. So this week in wrestling, there was a lot of things that happened, right? So we had some stuff happen on Raw. We had some stuff happen on SmackDown. We had some stuff happen with Rampage. We had some stuff with Impact. We had some stuff with Impact's pay-per-view event that happened actually on Saturday night. And then we also had NXT 2.0. So popularity-wise, I think like there's a growing trend right now with wrestling, and I feel like this might have been one of the most popular weeks of wrestling. And the debate topic is, what was your favorite part of this week in wrestling?
Well, I'd have to say that one of the biggest things newsworthy is, as far as everything goes, is CM Punk making his return.
Yes, 100%. Well, because it was rumored that he wasn't going to be around for a while. Because like even they said like he had like a major setback, and they weren't sure if he was going to come back. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, of course, he shows up, and him and Moxley have like their stare off, and Moxley gives him the finger and then walks off. And yeah, that was kind of crazy.
Indeed, it was.
I think for me, speaking of like returns, right? It's something about this, and it's gonna be funny when I say it, like this Hunter era of WWE, because we had the return of Bailey, Io Sky, we had Dakota Kai come back, right? The return of Karrion Kross, right? And this week was no different when we had Hit Row return.
Mhm.
And I think that's such a massive thing about Hit Row, because Hit Row is one of those groups that like very underrated, wasn't really used all that much when they were going around, and now here they are back on SmackDown. And I thought it was so cool when you just heard Hit Row, and then here they come in. Of course, Swerve is obviously in AEW with Keith Lee, and they're currently the AEW Tag Team Champions. But it was cool. It was cool seeing the three of them back. Baz with AJ, it was I just loved it, and just to see all of them together. I think another I would put as a second would be the return of VXT with Chelsea Green and Deonna Purrazzo, especially at Emergence, and winning the knockout tag team titles. Because I was like, I know they had been teasing it for a while, and they were kind of they were talking about making their return, but once they did, like, it seemed like they just never missed a beat.
Yeah. Funny thing is, Swerve was actually on AEW Uncensored's podcast, the official AEW podcast, this last Thursday, and he had mentioned like a little Easter egg of what was going on.
Almost like he knew that it was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was funny because I know AJ had his he was gearing up to do it, right? And he just like came out of nowhere, and he was just like, obviously, like, he had his own promotion going on, and I know he had like the big battle royale with like all the wrestling content creators, which shout out to Panda as well as Heel Kevin and Suplex, who were all in those matches. And Heel Kevin won, and Heel Kevin wanted to have this matchup with the champion versus his Heel Kevin Army champion title, and obviously that match wasn't going to take place because now AJ is back in WWE. But it was just cool to see everything kind of play out, and to see like he was being successful with his own promotion, especially when people got to see Hitmakers at For the Culture at this last year, part of with GCW. So to see them have the success that they're still having and then get brought back into WWE, I was all about that. Really quick, we have a couple guys who are coming in. Someone says, "Sup? What's up, Keith? Love you." And then, of course, Anthony, he says, "Bro, what's up, Mr. Mr. Matt Riddle?" I think, and it's just like this week though in wrestling, there's just so much fun stuff to happen. Like Chaz and I were talking right before the podcast. He was mentioning about how it was the first time that he's watched Raw in such a long time, and then he actively enjoys watching SmackDown. And it's like there's so much good wrestling kind of going here, there, everywhere, and then you want to be in tune, right? Because like obviously Raw is getting better, NXT is starting to revamp itself because NXT 2.0 is good, but now they want to mix in with like, they say they want to mix in some of the black and gold, and that was just a thing. Then they obviously have Dynamite with Quake by the Lake, and that was a great show. And my only real concern with that one was it seems like anytime that Darby is like kind of like getting beat by anybody, like all of a sudden it's like we got put in a coffin match, and and then all of a sudden Darby pops out, and it's like Darby pops out with this coffin match, and he has to win, and it's like I feel like they're kind of using that a little bit too much. But then obviously Moxley had his great match with Jericho, and then you could see what's going on Impact, and then there's just everything was just clicking, and I was like, dang, let's go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the fact that Tony Khan has put some people into help with talent relations and creative and stuff like that is going to help that product immensely because of the fact that he's not trying to do everything himself.
Yeah. Well, it was like at one point, remember, it was like a couple years ago. Was it a couple? It might have been last year. It might just seem like it was a couple years ago. But like Tony was like, all right, I guess I'm gonna have to overwatch what's going on Dark, because obviously like there were some things. Acclaim had said some things, and he was like, I guess I'm gonna have to watch that really closely from now on, and like just take over everything. And it just seemed like it was over a lot for him, because you're still running a soccer club, right? You're still running the Jaguars, and you're trying to head on AEW all by yourself. Like you
And
gotta
Ring
have,
of Honor.
yeah, and Ring of Honor now. Like you've got all these balls that you're juggling. You gotta relax, and you gotta let these guys know, like, you can take over the show for a little bit, and I will just oversee it and make sure that it's still up to par. But from there, like, it's not necessary, because he's still having his own daily life too. Because let's be real, shout outs to Mr. and Mrs. Guevara, right, on their nuptials. But Tony Khan was there too, like and he had I think he had the Jacksonville game like the next day, and he was at the wedding. So it's like you are everywhere.
Yeah, I think he's more like Vince than anybody should think, because of the fact that I don't ever see him. It's like when does this guy sleep?
Yeah, I
And
know.
Vince was notorious for the fact that he'd sleep maybe 2 to 3 hours a night.
Right. It was crazy. That man was at 70 something years old too. That man was a workaholic. Like he was just in the business, like doing the business. And it's just crazy to see, Tony's kind of like Tony's got a little bit more workload because he's obviously taking on like a wrestling company, 2 wrestling companies, and he's still taking on 2 different franchises. So it's like you need to get more minds into the business of where you really want to direct your focus and get those guys to make sure the product runs the way you want it to run. So I think having some people like the Big Show, Dean Malenko, obviously having Jerry Lynn and all these guys like kind of take on more control and more like fix and help fix the problems and getting people to understand better with talent relation. Yeah, you're definitely going to get a lot better stories out of it. And, a lot more people are going to be happy. So I think it's definitely necessary.
And Pat Buck's a good egg too. Pat Buck is someone that's great to have. I actually had Pat review a few matches of mine a few years ago, and he definitely knows what he's doing.
So I do have a question here. Somebody says, "Where's the crew at though?" One is at work, one is sleeping, and the other one is celebrating his anniversary. So there you go. And shout outs to Chaz and his wife. They are celebrating their first anniversary actually today. So, congratulations to them.
Heck yeah, congratulations.
And then Anthony says, happy anniversary, because myself, my wife and I actually just celebrated our 12th year anniversary on the 12th. So
yeah, let's give this man a hand because he is still alive.
I haven't pissed her off too bad yet, so I think we're winning at life. So one thing I do want to get into, right? We're gonna hop into what I love calling match of the week. Normally, I would have the Red Dogs power rankings, but I don't have the power rankings, just to be honest, because I was celebrating my anniversary. So I was away, so I didn't really get to watch as much wrestling as I wanted to. But I did get to watch one match that was recommended to me, and I definitely want to put it over. So what would you say your match of the week was for this past week?
I'd probably have to say it was the Moxley Jericho match.
Yeah, I did watch Dynamite, and I would have to agree that match was actually really, really good and a lot of fun to be told. And it seems like those two, like obviously they've worked a bunch, so they kind of know each other, but to see like they were able to go that extra mile and to add some stuff to the match, especially with the Lionheart gimmick being brought back. I liked that aspect of what Jericho was bringing.
Yeah, one of the things I dug about it was the fact that the entire picture-in-picture commercial, Jericho had his walls of Jericho on Moxley.
That was definitely awesome. I think for me, my match of the week, would have definitely been Shinsuke Nakamura versus Gunther.
That
Or
was
Walter.
another.
Yeah, so that match was fire, and a lot of people kind of slept on it because they're like, whatever, this is WWE, but they gave that match exactly everything they needed, right? So they hyped that match up, they gave it like a big video package to kind of showcase like what the Intercontinental title means, and they really kept pushing to the forefront that this is that title that you want to get. And so you have these two great superstars from different parts of the world who kind of understand each other. And then they just had this awesome ass chemistry. And Gunther can work with anybody. Like we've known this for a long time. So people who followed him back on the indie scene, on NXT, NXT UK, already like what Walter brings to the table. And so to see him in WWE and to see him flourish, I kind of said something a few months ago, and it was probably at the time it was warranted, but now like it's starting to kind of change in the aspect. But like I said that currently Walter being in a position at WWE, he's just another guy. Because like when we see Walter like on NXT UK, or you see him at NXT, or you see him on the indie scene, he's just this he's this force. Like he's just presented as the god. And like everybody knows that you see this big 300-pound man who hits like a freight train every single time, and you are in for it. You know what kind of matches you're going to get when you see him. They're going to be clean, they're going to be simple, and they're going to be just executed flawlessly. But when he got brought to WWE, and it was something I noticed when he was on the NXT, Raw, SmackDown, Survivor Series, right? That he was just there. He was just a guy, and he looked average to all those monsters that are on the roster. And I say that knowing that Roman Reigns was there, Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, him, Keith Lee, right? There was a lot of big names to those guys. And to see Walter or / Gunther like up there, you're like, he's just another dude. And then Gunther got brought into the main roster, and you're like, yeah, it's just kind of but now they're actually giving him some teeth. And it's like, okay, cool. This is the kind of Walter that I remember seeing from the show. And even though he's toned up and slimmed down a lot, like it's still Gunther, and he's still Walter. Like he still chops hard, he still delivers the boot, he definitely power bombs with a fierceness. Like he's just getting better. And it's like I love the presentation now of what I'm getting with him versus than what it was when he got in a couple months ago.
For sure. He's he definitely lives his gimmick as far as being the ring general. He does know what he's doing very well, and he does a lot of things that not a lot of other people do. Yeah, he hits hard. There's a lot of other people that hit hard, but he has purpose in every single movement that he makes, and that's not very usual. I mean, especially with the WWE market and stuff like that, because everybody's, I mean, hell, everywhere in wrestling right now, they're trying to put as many moves as they possibly can in, and sometimes they don't make sense.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think that's what I love about Walter is like Walter has like 6 moves. Like if you realistically look at it, he has 6 moves. He chops a person, he has the splash, he has the big boot, he has the power bomb, and then every once in a while he'll throw a German suplex. Like that's pretty much Walter's moveset, but it's done in such a fashion that you get attached to the matches so quickly when you watch. And no better person to showcase that with than Shinsuke Nakamura, who also is very just like fluid in all of his movements, right? He's just a lot of fun to watch. He's got this big, rock star personality that he brought from NXT to the main roster. And I know the main roster didn't really know what to do with him first couple years, but I feel like he kind of caught his groove. And Nakamura now is just doing amazing work too. And I think watching those two together, you could clearly see that these two guys had chemistry, and it was just going to be kind of like that old school drag out, hit them hard, like strong style kind of wrestling that we enjoy from both guys. And I just loved that they were showcased for 20 minutes, like at the end of the show. I was like, damn, this is what the IC title should always be about.
For sure, for sure. I love the fact that, you know, we're actually getting meaning back behind these mid card titles, because there was a point here recently where it was like, oh, who's the champ? Oh wow, I didn't even know that. And now we're actually getting behind these champions and making these belts meaningful again.
Yeah, I was like, it wasn't too long ago that people would have forgotten that Ricochet was the Intercontinental Champion. Like, he was, and like people would be like, oh, or like even like there was Theory, and who was the champion before Theory?
You made your point.
That's the point. Like, who was the Intercontinental Champion before Ricochet won it? Because he won it from a heel, obviously, and Gunther clearly has it now. But who did Ricochet?
Sami Zayn?
Was it Sammy? Like, yeah, maybe it might have been. I think he stole, like he won it in like a fluke, and like a fluke roll up, quote unquote, and like I think, and then that's just what happened to him. Like I don't remember. Like I'm trying, but yeah, like those titles didn't mean jack. And now you look at this most recent run with like Bobby Lashley as the champion, and it's like this title is important because if Roman Reigns is not going to be at both shows to showcase how much the heavyweight title means, then it has to be the U.S. Championship, or it has to be the Intercontinental Championship, or it has to be the WWE Tag Titles, because right now, like, they're just rebuilding the women's roster to make it have that same kind of meaning, where you see, you know, Shayna Baszler is now this new contender for Liv's SmackDown title, right? And then on the other side, you're having Bayley come through and challenge for the Raw title on Bianca Belair's side. And it's just cool to see like they're starting to build up all these rosters and stuff like that. So it's important, but at the same time, it's like, bro, like we need you to invest in us and help us invest into your champions. And now we're finally starting to get there, and it's good to see.
Very much so. And me bringing up Bianca, that's another thing that I've noticed here lately in the last few weeks. Have you noticed that her attitude and her verbiage has changed? Not like it, more like it's not near as scripted as it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like they're finally giving. I just feel like that's how it should have been to begin with. Obviously, different people, different strokes. It's what it matters. But Triple H had like this idea or this like concept of, hey, we're gonna give you these bullet points. We want you to hit these bullet points, but the rest of it has to be you. And we're finally getting that from everybody. Like anybody cutting promos, it just feels like they're a whole different person. Even the Miz, and I know that the Miz has always been like the WWE guy, but there was eras of Miz that we were watching, and now we're starting to see like, hey, there's the old Miz that we used to remember, and look at him cutting his promos. They just feel natural, and I was like, they don't feel forced, and I'm like, I'm so grateful for this.
Kind of like that old Talking Smack one that he did with Daniel Bryan.
You know what's funny is I was listening to Oral Sessions, right, with Renee, and like they were talking about that segment, and I guess like Daniel Bryan was supposed to help set up a match, and he was supposed to punch Miz, and instead of punching Miz, he felt at that time with Miz saying the way he did and all the emotion, he's like, it's just best for me to walk away, and so he just walked off the interview, and that was supposed to happen. I was like, you were supposed to punch the Miz, and I was like, God, it's just so great of experience to just recognize, like, hey, you know what? No, he has to have this moment. Let him have it and just walk out. And I was like, that's great.
Exactly.
So we're gonna move into our second debate topic of the day, and it's something that's really kind of hitting close to home and the Wall Street Journal. And I say close to home because we're all like big wrestling fans, and more importantly, you know, the Wall Street Journal grabbed the whole of this story, kind of ran with it, and now like there's more and more that's going to come out about it, right? So obviously by now, if you guys are watching the show, you guys already know that Vince McMahon has retired, right? But the board hasn't concluded their investigations yet about some mismanaged funds. Currently, the total allegedly, I'm going to say that, right, is about $19 million, right? Because they found additional money of additional NDAs that were paid out that weren't used for anything. So does this damage Vince McMahon's like reputation as far as a person?
Yes and no. He mismanaged company money. You know, I'm not going to say it's right what he did as far as being in these outside relationships with these women and basically saying, "Hey, I don't want this out there. Here's some hush money." You know, there are corporate people that do that all the time. They just don't get caught.
That is a
Vince McMahon is basically, you know, you Google billionaire, and Donald Trump and Vince McMahon are two of the top people that show up like all the time. So of course, anything that's gonna happen with Vince is gonna get mainstream publicity on it.
yeah. It's weird though, man, because like we've known like I guess if people like were to say like, well, we've known Vince's character since the 80s, blah. Maybe, you know, and I could definitely understand, but I was like, to the extent of what's been like being put out there, and whether and I don't want to say whether it's kayfabe or not, because really at this point, the Wall Street Journal really doesn't have anything to lose. Like they've already put it out there, and they do their research on stuff. So to see that there's like all this stuff kind of like blackballing Vince, if I want to say it, it's kind of shocking and kind of not. Like it's hard to sit back and be like, nah. Vince would never do that. Ever. Ever. Like, you mean Vincent Kennedy McMahon, the guy who founded WWE, the one who bought the company from his dad and said he would never buy up all the rest of the territories, just let the territories be the same. And then as soon as he bought the company from his dad, bought all the territories? That guy? No. You know, it's weird though that like a man like that, like obviously he was using company money to pay off like a bunch of women. It just it's mind-boggling, and it's like, dude, like you know you're in charge of this company. You know that they're gonna find out. Whether they find out now or they find out later, it's gonna come out eventually. And there's been like, you know, reported cases from like back to like 2006 that this was happening. So now it's 2022, almost 16 years later, and your skeletons are coming to light. So yeah, I guess, you know, kind of makes sense. And I guess the worst parts that I had it too, I was talking about it and somebody was bringing it up with some people who never watch wrestling. They were bringing it up to me. They're like, dude, did you hear about Vince McMahon and how he was paying women off and that they were having him sleep with a friend? And I was like, yeah, that was Johnny Ace. I was like, that's, yeah, I know all about this right now, and I don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he apparently he got completely terminated this week as well.
Yeah. Which is going to lead us right to the next segment of what I'd like to call Heat Check. So what Heat Check is going to be all about is our hottest wrestler of the week and our coldest wrestler of the week. And I'll let you go first. You can tell me who you think your hottest or your coldest wrestler of the week is.
I'd say the hottest wrestler of the week is going to have to be CM Punk. You know, he's the one that's, I mean, as far as AEW goes, he's the one that's got more buzz. that was like the first topic that anybody out of all the stuff that happened with AEW this week. That was the top thing. Hey, did you know CM Punk's back? Yeah. So yeah, he's gonna be the hottest wrestler of the week. Coldest. Drew McIntyre's sword.
Yo, yeah, you're right.
That thing is not getting any TV time anymore, which is a
No.
good thing.
Yeah. I want to know like why Vince thought that was such a great idea for him to like I know like a lot of people like that sword, but I'm like, yo, why was that a thing? Like we just told Drew like come out with the sword to make you look more badass. No, he's already a badass. Like just let him do his
Let's
thing.
not give the man a murder weapon that he has to choose not to use.
Yeah. I was like, listen, this is a fight. Why is my man not busting out the sword?
Exactly.
Like the few times that we saw him like use it, like he hit the rope and he like cut the rope and stuff like that, broke a table. I was like, come on, man, like you can do so much more with that. Chop an arm off. It's just a flesh wound.
Right.
I think for me, I'm gonna go hottest wrestler of the week. I have to agree. CM Punk is definitely the hottest wrestler. Like everybody's talking about how great it was to see CM Punk come back, and like he looked really good too. Looked really good in shape. Foot looked great. Obviously, like he was bouncing around on one foot as he was cleared in the ring, and him and Moxley. This match is just gonna just be ridiculous when they meet up at All Out. So I can't wait for that match. Coldest wrestler of the week. Anybody who's paying attention to the show, obviously, they're going to be like, oh, Shawn Spears, because that's the joke. Chaz isn't here to say Shawn Spears. I will tell you Shawn Spears is the coldest wrestler of the week because he is. But also, I wanted to make this a point. I did tell Chaz last week that my hottest wrestler of the week was Shawn Spears, as well as my coldest wrestler of the week was also Shawn Spears. Hottest wrestler because obviously congratulations to Shawn and Cassie for announcing their pregnancy. Definitely big congrats, and I wish you guys the best. Coldest reason, do you remember the last thing that he did? Because I don't, and I don't watch Dark or Elevation currently.
I don't either.
I try to, but I don't get to watch it all the time. But as far as coldest wrestler of the week for this week, it will be, I would say Shawn Spears, but I feel like there's one other person that's way more colder than him, and that's Johnny Ace, because now that man just went from being in a top position to being in a cold position, and I'm probably gonna get some heat for that. So it is what it is. Johnny Ace, my coldest wrestler of the week.
Cool.
So let's move into our last topic. This is a topic that I definitely have a lot of fun with. It is a new segment that we brought onto our show called This or That. So normally what it is we take two people and we kind of debate about it, right? Who is better, right? We originally wanted to go with the GOAT on the very first one, which is where we talked about Shawn Michaels versus Chris Jericho. Thanks to you guys who are out there voted for Shawn Michaels. I, of course, voted for Chris Jericho because Chris Jericho is still the GOAT in my eyes. But then a lot of people started talking about all the other names that we were talking about. So we definitely brought up LOD. We definitely brought up with the Hardys. We talked about, all sorts of other ones. You guys all know. So this week's This or That. So if you guys have been paying attention, this was a debate topic. For some reason, it blew up on Twitter, and it's kind of bled over into like the rest of the world because my friends in fantasy football are talking about it too for some reason. But it is Stone Cold or The Rock for this debate topic. So now I wanted to jump in with that. So as far as best wrestler / entertainer, is it The Rock or is it Stone Cold?
That is definitely a good topic. I mean, more recently, Stone Cold has had a lot more publicity because he stays in the limelight. He had his match at WrestleMania. He does his podcast weekly. So, he stays out there. The Rock's kind of keeping to himself and keeping, the only reason The Rock keeps getting mentioned now is because everybody is waiting in at the edge of their seat for the whole Roman Reigns Rock deal, allegedly, that's supposed to happen at WrestleMania. You know, I would definitely say right now, Stone Cold would be my answer.
So if you were to take it all time, like who would you pick?
All time, I would. I've been an Austin fan ever since he was the WCW television champion. So, I mean, I'd still have to stick with Austin. You know, he you know, as far as selling tickets and, you know, merchandise and stuff like that, I mean, both of them are completely outstanding. But honestly, I think Austin was hotter for longer than The Rock.
I think for me, it was, and I've kind of gone through this when we've had this argument about like the New Day versus the Usos, right? Like the New Day themselves have obviously kept like the same gimmick, and they've been like the New Day forever, right? Whereas like the Usos have gone through these iterations and gotten over multiple times with different gimmicks. And I look at Stone Cold and I look at The Rock, right? And I see Rocky Maivia, and Maivia, I'm gonna be honest, Rocky never got over. He just didn't. People didn't like him. He was just, you know, they kind of rejected him. Although they did pop for him at first. But when he became The Rock, that's when The Rock took off. And then The Rock's iterations changed, right? But Stone Cold, before Stone Cold, was obviously like Stunning Steve, right? The Hollywood Blondes. And these were things that got over numerous times, except for that, you know, when he went to WWF and he just wasn't getting over as the $1 Million Man's like right-hand man. But it's like he had all these different characters, and you remember like that he was with, you know, he was with Brian Pillman, and he ran independently at WCW as Stunning Steve. And then you found him back over, and he kind of like dropped everything and became Stone Cold, right? Or Chili McFreeze, depending on who you want to talk to. But like he got over with that attitude, and then like just Austin from there just kind of took off, you know. And then once, like I said, once The Rock became The Rock, that was it. But people always talk about like, they always talk about Austin coming back and having that other match. Will he have one more match? Will he be able to do this, right? And when he did have that match at WrestleMania, it didn't even look like he missed a beat. It was like 19 years that he'd been retired, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. He came back and he just, everybody got electric for it, right? And with The Rock, no disrespect to The Rock, because The Rock had been gone for like 7 years. And when he came back, you know, he had his moment and I'll never forget it because I get goosebumps every time I think about it. You know, in 2011, when he came back as the host of WrestleMania, and then he had the match with Cena. Then he had another match with Cena like the next year. And it's like, yeah, all these things played in and were great, but I don't care to see The Rock in 2022 in a ring. Like, if he came back, yeah, I'm probably going to pop because it's The Rock, right? But I popped for Austin after almost 20 years. And I'm looking at this WrestleMania card coming up, and I'm like, I'm cool. Yeah, it's The Rock. But I saw him return. And I don't need to see him return again. Like, he could just stay in Hollywood, do his thing, because he is slaying it there. There's no reason for him to come back. Like, I know all these people are like talking about like the Chief and stuff like that. But if I looked overall, I would definitely have to be Austin is definitely my move. Like, I just thought he was a better wrestler. He had he understood the crowd a lot better. He just knew how to motivate. He got the word "what" over, and they still use it today, and it's ridiculous. It's almost 30 years, and people are still saying "what." It's ridiculous to me. But I like Austin more than I like The Rock, though I do not dislike The Rock.
Agreed.
So with that being said, those are really kind of like all of our debate topics and stuff like that. We know this is kind of a shorter show, and it's because, you know, we have all sorts of things kind of going on, and we definitely, you know, it is what it is. Y'all know. But Mike, go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
You can find me on Facebook, Mike Caldwell, or just look for me on TikTok. I'm there a lot too. So I don't even know what my actual handle is on TikTok.
If you guys follow me on TikTok, you guys will definitely find his TikTok as well, because I know I follow you, and I think it's been one of my most recent follows too. So you guys should definitely find him on there.
Actually, I tagged the 3 count yesterday on a post because y'all usually do a if I had the pencil.
Yes. So we definitely got away. So there's been, obviously, without saying it, but now that you kind of bring it up, we've had some few changes to the podcast. If you guys remember, we started this show with like 4 individuals, and then throughout time, those 4 individuals changed into 4 other individuals. And then throughout time, like those 4 individuals kind of just stayed the 2 originals, right? So myself and Chaz are kind of like the consistent members of this podcast. So if I had the pencil, kind of just kind of went out the window for right now. It'll get brought back. It'll get restructured. It'll probably be more of a one-on-one situation with Chaz and myself, because we enjoy doing the show. We enjoy talking to you guys about everything. And currently, we just Chaz, like I said, is having his anniversary last week. I think I was booked at a show. Oh no, I was just asked not to come on the show. That was what it was. I was asked my day off. Chaz is going to be Chaz will probably be hosting the show next week by himself, because I will be in Virginia wrestling for CPW. So, shout out to Classic Pro Wrestling. And then I know I'm supposed to be at SWA actually in Pennsylvania on the 20th. So you guys will catch me there. And I would say that we might have a show on the 28th. It might be a road show, so you guys might catch us traveling, because we got to be in Invictus Pro Wrestling in New Jersey on the 28th. We're just kind of like really busy, if you can't tell. We've been all over the place, up and down the Mid-Atlantic, just working like crazy. We definitely appreciate all the companies who have been showcasing us, because it's definitely something like, without good promoters and good just good people to talk to and book us, we wouldn't have these opportunities. So we definitely appreciate it, and we definitely give out shout outs during the week whenever we get the chance to. So whether it's 1CW out of Delaware or SCWA in West Virginia, hopefully we get to work for them again, because we definitely want to. PWX, we get to work all sorts of different places in Pennsylvania. So big ups to everybody who keeps putting us on. Sorry if I'm forgetting somebody, but we definitely know that there's a lot of companies that we work for and in and out of all these, especially this last year. Like, full transparency, Mike, this might shock you, right? But in 2020, I only worked 4 matches. And in 2021, I worked 17. And this year, now I'm slated to work, if I keep at the same pace that I've been, something like 35 matches, which is a steady improvement. And I'm like, that is awesome.
Indeed it is. Keep up the work.
I appreciate it. But if you guys tune in, you guys know that we have to end the show. So we're going to end this like we do on Now Enter Ring, because, we're going to take this home. Because this is the 3 Count Podcast, the base show, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up this mountain called wrestling. But like every good Sherpa, which by now I would hope that you would be acknowledging me as, like your tribal chief, it's never about me, but it's about who's joining me in the ring, in the debate ring today. You see him right next to me. It's Mike Caldwell. That's right, out of Texas with BCW and so many other great promotions. You guys not checking out, you need to check him out. Follow him on Facebook, because you can definitely see all the cool shit that he is promoting. And I promise you guys will definitely enjoy it. So you guys tune into the next episode and be there, or
don't give them an option. Just be there.
You're following us on all of our social media platforms, which is down here on the bottom. You're subscribed to our YouTube channel. You're following us on all of your podcasting streaming sites, whether that's Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You're either doing all that stuff and buying our merch and telling your friends about that, or you're really just waiting for this episode to end. You're waiting for the outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Peace.